Alright, hey guys, welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast. This is Gavin, and I'm so happy to have this very special episode for you guys this evening. This has been a long time in the making one here. We've decided we've been trying to make this happen for almost a year, maybe from the get-go even of this thing. So I'm very proud to introduce my longtime friends, first time on the podcast friends. We got Rebecca and John here with us tonight.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Hello. Hello. I'm shy.
Welcome to
don't
the Cure
judge.
Podcast. But yeah, we were saying we were going over the notes when I first initially was like, all right, could this work? Should I find people that would actually want to talk about the Cure? And you're on the list there, the initial list. I was like, who could I talk to comfortably for like a substantial amount of time? And it goes back to our days at the bookstore that you guys work at still, and I worked at a few years ago. And here in Asheville, there's a used books, records, tapes, and more. Tapes.
No tapes. No tapes.
Don't bring your tapes.
Don't bring your tapes.
Keep your tapes at home.
CDs and vinyl, but no tapes.
Already fucking up the pitch. Yeah, has it been
Now
that
it works.
long?
It should be a way to go.
Yeah.
Should be a way to go.
Cassettes are in again, you know?
I heard.
Yeah, they.
I have only two.
Yeah,
You
which
have only
ones?
2 tapes?
Yeah, the
Really?
Poison. Look what the cat dragged in. It's currently in my
Yeah.
car right now. The other one,
Can't give
I'm
that
not
one.
exactly sure. No, I'm not giving it up. I couldn't.
No, you have
I
a Tiffany
couldn't.
tape
Yeah.
in your...
No, it was a CD.
Oh, it was a CD.
Yeah.
They're going pretty high again too, like $4 to $6 maybe.
Yeah.
That's
And
pretty high.
That's
The
pretty
tape's
little
good.
high for a tape.
Because, I wouldn't
I
trust
remember the
mine.
last tape that I bought was like $10.99, and that was
Mm.
maybe a decade ago, and it
Yeah.
was the Marvin Gaye tape. And it was one of the last times I was able to buy a tape, an actual store.
Yeah.
It's like a Goodwill or something. Yeah, it was like $11.
Yeah,
Wow.
CDs were
94?
not that much more.
yeah, especially
Well, no,
all
I'm like
CDs are like
97.
Yeah.
$18.
It was a long time ago. It could have been longer anyway. I was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much hold on to mixes from people, but then scattered reel tapes. And most of my Cure ones, I had on my Cure ones. Then I made the mistake of like giving them to people as being like, this was my starting Cure tape.
They didn't
And
appreciate
nah.
it. did they?
Now I'm like trying to find subtle ways to ask for it back, you know. I know we haven't talked in 7 years, but can
It's
I have
my property. It's my property. Take it to the courts, man.
Take it to the court. Take it to Judy.
Judge Judy.
She'll sort that shit out.
Yeah, so I don't know. The tape resurgence. Donald's down with it. Co-host of the Holy Hour. That's all he listens to a lot.
That's
One
awesome.
tape?
That's when
Oh,
tapes
man,
make so
I
much
just-
more sense because you can't. Anything that's a circle,
Yeah.
I'm not good at taking care of that.
Um,
but if it's a rectangle,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can throw
You
that
throw
all
it
over your
around.
car.
It's
You can do whatever
100%
you
nostalgia
think
for me. When I go over to his
Oh,
house, then I'm like,
it's
this
easier.
is so cool. I want to rebuy all my Cure tapes. And I'm like, this is the worst format ever. Like, you listen, it's literally the only format that gets worse every time you listen to it.
It does.
Like, it's just
And if you
slow.
keep it in the sun in your car, it'll warp it.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain songs. It's interesting. I have this with records too. Certain songs, when I hear it in its normal version, I'm like, wait a minute. Where's the part where it goes?
Oh, yeah, the warbly.
Where's that
'Cause I thought it was
distortion
part of
that I'm
the
so used to?
song.
Whoa, man.
Oh my
I
god, I'm
made a
recording and I'm
mistake.
talking about this nonsense.
That's how it goes here.
Anyway, sorry.
It's the soft opening
haven't
that
got
always
to the Cure yet.
reels them in, you know. But yeah, I mean, going back to this bookstore
Yes.
that we worked at
Oh,
all
yeah,
together,
yeah.
and you guys are there, and that was a very pivotal Cure-related moment for me in the sense because I came
Cool.
out of horrible teaching experiences, and
Oh, yeah.
I remember very early because like one of the perks and obvious cool things of being at the bookstore is you get to play your music while you're in there, and but for some reason I was like everything took it way too serious and never comfortably ever wanted to put music on for at least the first 5 months of working there maybe, and so it must not have been me, but I remember like the first week or something, it was like finally one of the closing shifts and it was just calmed down and it's just starting to get comfortable enough with everything, and Like, I believe it was you threw on, it must have been just all Disintegration or a mix of Cure. And I remember just like in the wee hours there, it was like all winding down, and like pictures of you came out in particular. I was like, this is so fucking awesome. I can like get paid to just stand here and look at weird people looking at you shit and listen to pictures of you. And it's like this is heaven. I'll never leave this job. So that was a huge part of it. But yeah, I used to love all our Cure mixes and variations of what got picked there. So yeah, I mean, with those ideas in mind, we never, as many times as we hung out and stuff, we never really talked about your full Cure stories and how it all happened, and that's what the Holy Hour is all about, is digging into people's, more of just where it started, and so we were talking earlier, just trying to get the pre-story, but I guess around your adolescence, would you say it starts in Huntsville, Alabama?
No,
the epic story? Or?
No, it starts. Yes, sorry, I forgot where it was. Sorry.
I mean, you weren't born there, I guess, but
what do I know? I don't remember.
It's like those biographies that start with, well, great-great-grandpa Massey. It's like, oh, come on, man, we gotta...
I was all ready to talk about my parents' Beatles tapes. I went way
No, that's cool. Well, that's kind of a good question. Did you have a lot of music around the house? Were your parents big music fans?
I did. I mean, in my, they're, like middle-class white people, they liked a lot of Beatles. But anyway, so I did too, but they also, so the records I remember were, I know a lot of Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand because of my parents, but also at the same time, I remember my parents had this really cool, like all of the Beatles in this black tape case, and you open it up in the middle, on the inside part of it was this pink satiny looking stuff, and there were all these Beatles things, and they would fit into these slots. There was a slot for each tape, which I still like, and I would open it up and I would look at it, and they all had the same pattern on it. It was this sort of part pink and part other hippie weird psychedelic design, and I remember really liking what it looked like visually, and so from that it was just this sort of, not ritual, but just this fun thing to do, to stick them in the tape player. And they're just, the physical sensation of it was really cool, and I like how tapes look. And anyway, and so I would listen to a lot of that stuff, but then my whole world changed when Purple Rain came onto the scene, which is a whole other show, and so I can't even start on that. This is a Cure show, it's not the Cure show anymore.
I think they can all relate.
Right. So that was most of my life, but then the Cure, I guess.
Were you aware of Prince before that? Just as the quick, or was that your first?
My first memory of, like, I remember when I got Purple Rain, because my dad brought it back for me as a present. He'd go on trips for work, and he would come back, and he brought me this Purple Rain, the record, and I was in my living room, I remember right where I was, and I just started to cry, because I was so happy, and there was something about this moment that I knew was like this really important thing, and then the record changed my life. Anyway, so
it's an awesome record to give to your kids.
I have 3 records and 2 tapes, and I know. Well, he was with me when I bought Apollonia 6, which the album of that was like 3 ladies in lingerie, and I was real weird.
He's like, buy this one.
It was real weird. I was like, even I thought that.
Well, what was the inner picture of the one Prince where he's basically
where his
naked?
ass is out?
Yeah.
That might have been in 1999, but I can't remember. He has this he's going to paint some watercolors, and his ass is up, and he's all greasy.
Laying on the bed.
Yeah, laying on the bed. It's like in a massage parlor or something. There are neon lights.
Didn't that come out before Purple Rain?
I think that might have... I can't remember which record that was, but no, I don't think that was before Purple Rain. But I don't remember which album it was, which is really terrible. But anyway, but he's trying to paint. But there's nothing on the page at all. It's just him.
Like a lot of colors of naked ass covered up.
Yeah, you can really focus on much
satin
else. Again, I'm sorry, I got to focus on Karen. Okay,
no problem. No, it's all loosey-goosey.
I cannot remember the first time that I heard The Cure. All I know is that Wish was the first album that I ever bought. And then so pretty much everything related to The Cure has to do with my girlfriends at the time, and we all liked it, and so
like mid-high school by this point? High school?
Yeah, 9th, 10th grade, something. Yeah, okay. I would say. So there was some stuff I heard at the end of middle school that I liked, but it didn't become something that I was sort of obsessed with. With, any music that I really love, I'm obsessed with. There's not much in between.
I don't know.
And so I
and that was the album that kind of broke out into more avenues for sure, with all the success of Disintegration and stuff. Was
Yeah.
it one song in particular that reeled you in, or was it just kind of a...
I can't remember because it's all as hazy as my memories of the time.
Yeah.
So when I hear a song, I think about a certain person, or hear another song, I think about a certain place, and it all kind of blends together. And then I sort of, from which I would work backwards to their older albums, which are really some of my favorite ones, are the older ones. But of course, I mean, who's not going to say that they're
Did you dive in pretty like hardcore from like Wish, where you were like, all right, I gotta get all the albums in order, or you just kind of get them as you stumbled across them?
I don't think so, because almost everything that I listened to in high school was from either my brother, who listened to guy stuff, or my girlfriends who listened to girl stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty separate. And then
they pretty much joined in
girl stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but it was girl stuff. But I mean, come to find out, many years later, that all of these guys, and which is a really interesting experience, I think, guys introducing each other to The Cure, like guys learning The Cure and girls learning The Cure, are two very different things. In Huntsville, Alabama, and the 90s. And so it's interesting because we did know guys who liked The Cure, but like the theater kids, and
and I'm still learning about this now. I'm like, Cure's girl stuff? That was badass, man.
It is badass.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it really is.
Funny,
it's just that we didn't understand how to identify these things. It's just
totally makes sense.
But a lot of that has to do, and also I think of it as girl stuff, not because it was how it was introduced to me, but my love for a lot of what The Cure did is connected to my love for the girls who were my best friends at the time. And so it's kind of inseparable from how I feel about them and memories of them. And so I think it's girl stuff in that sense to me, because it's my girls. They're related to the girls I love. So
it's crazy how much that is like the glue that holds, and
so
definitely on the
much.
same level as me and Donald. That's all.
Yeah.
That's our girl stuff too. But I mean, it's like so was it like a lot of car soundtrack kind of things and stuff where you would drive around or hang out and listen to The Cure, or just would always be kind of there?
The tape player in the car. Yeah. There's a lot of that, and at parties, and but also I remember being. This is one thing I wrote in my notes, and I scratched out. I was like, "Don't tell the story, it's stupid." Now I'm about to tell it. And it's real short, but it has to do with "Letter to Elise," because that's one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking like climaxes in a song that I've ever heard in my life. And I'm sure there are other things, and the only other thing that comes to mind, really, and this is weird, is this Weezer song that's really beautiful, that breaks my heart when it gets like that. It's Only in Dreams, that song. Oh my God, I used to cry every time. I can't drive when I listen to that song. Anyway, it's beautiful, and so it's just like this way that it builds that's so painful but cathartic at the same time. And once you get through it, you're like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And so I remember that part, and I was at this party in college, and I was drunk, and everybody's drunk, and there was some guy, and he knew music, and I didn't know music, and we talked about how it was cool that I didn't know things. It wasn't the beginning of it.
Burst someone else.
This is great. You don't know anything.
I know everything. You don't know shit. We're perfect team. But anyway, but it was cool because I was saying I like not knowing music theory and things like that, because I had this feeling about it, and I think we talked about that at dinner tonight, like having just this feeling about it without understanding what's behind it. And there's other things that I understand, things that are behind them, and I wish that I didn't, and because it sort of takes a purity out of some things. Anyway, whatever. So he knew music theory or whatever he knew, I don't remember. And then I didn't know anything. So we were drunk at this party, and I remember like us and then other people talking about the song, and then I remember all of us together like waiting and listening for that part of that song, Letter to Elise. And then we're all like, and it was this really beautiful moment, because I felt like I realized that other people besides just my girlfriends could recognize this one really beautiful moment. And I liked it a lot. And then I think that maybe probably from that moment on, since I still remember it, it's like that long ago, 20
that's so crazy that it happened in such a social moment. Like I had
just some weird,
roughly a very similar to the song, but mine were always like me in the bedroom, like mold growing on the carpet next to me. Like this is a really powerful song. Wish I could share this experience with someone.
Well, what songs?
Letter to Elise, but I mean that one in
yeah.
particular, like you know, we had so many backstories with that and weird things, but yeah, tons of them with Cure songs like that for sure. You know, just like those things that pull you in. Like it was always like kind of just the hooks that got me initially, like strange songs, like just like the catchy guitar parts or the catchy melodies, you know, and like yeah, not till probably In Between Days would probably be the first one where I'm like the lyrics mean so much, and then the song's catchy, where it's just like the whole package kind of thing. You know?
This is my note about you. I get to read my note. Listen, this is the sound of my note. So In Between Days is it's definitely one of the ones that I like the most, and I was talking to John about this tonight. It makes me have this really weird feeling where I really just like want to run around or jump really fast or something like that. Like I can't. Like I feel like I'm really excited and also extremely sad at the same time. Yeah. And so the fact that my body could be wanting to just have this action and I just want to cry at the same time is really strange. And so I'm mostly just sit there. Yeah. and just totally get agitated and feeling a lot of things.
A lot of that might be the huge charm of those songs in particular, like that, and just like having all fall in that kind of. And even like, you know, it does tap into like some Smiths, but it's something that like a lot of those bands, even if you have a catchy song, you have a sad song, but it's so rare that you have that blend of sad song. Or you can like dance to it, or if you're in a good mood, it feels great. If you're in a shitty mood, you can wallow in it, and it's so weird. Exactly. It's like, and I don't think that's a very common thing, you know. That's
the only other one that makes me feel like that, and it's not the Cure, is Ceremony.
Yeah.
That makes me feel the same way. I want to dance and cry at the same time, which is probably a very ugly thing to watch.
Everyone was sobbing dancer.
I'm just sobbing at Ceremony, to be honest with you. When I hear it, I kind of start to just get stone cold, and except for the waterworks.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing that they're able to do that, because I don't understand.
But yeah, and I wonder, like, I guess kind of steering off topic a bit, but like from where you started with Wish, then a topic that always comes up is interesting of getting like the whole lump sum of this whole band's career.
I did do that a bunch at once. I don't remember when it was, but I remember starting to collect.
And there's such like a diverse, weird band that like, how did you recall any of like what the fuck moments of like hearing like Love Cats and then like you know like shit up of Three Imaginary Boys, because I mean there really is a lot of like levels and.
I love Three Imaginary Boys too, but there's especially the climax of that song is really, really cool. Well, actually, I thought it was really cool, and I listened to it the other day, and I was like, it's still good, but it's not quite what I thought it was. I think it's just some songs. I feel bad saying this, but some songs just take so long to get where they're going. When finally there's something different, you're like, "This is awesome!" And it's just because it's been 7 minutes. Because 7 minutes.
Like, there's something switch to that one chord finally.
But I do like that part, the climactic part of the Imaginary Boys. Yeah, things were weird, but it wasn't. I mean, my friends always listened to weird things that I was not like. They didn't sound like you couldn't dance to it or anything, or they're screaming, and things I ended up liking later, like Bikini. Like I remember the first time I heard Bikini Kill, I was like, "What is this? This is too loud." And I love it now, but you know, my friends
pretty much everything that sticks is always weird at first. Yeah, that seems to be the pattern. I can't really remember any of my like bands that I love now that I was like, "This is great" the first time I listened to it.
I know.
I mean, it's select moments,
almost
but
everything took a long time. I mean, not every, but almost everything. I think that's actually. I can't stop and think about this too much or I'll be quiet for a really long time. But a lot of things I think that are my very favorite things in the whole world, it took a really long time for me to like them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't know if The Cure was one of them though. I think The Cure I like a lot, but it was, I
think that's why they're cool, because they have like those singles like In Between Days and stuff that grab you pretty initially, and then when you finally hear like the deep cuts and the really dark weird shit, you know, and you're all like, that's weird. I'll just kind of sit on this for a while, see how pornography plays out in a few years.
There was, because I did go backwards from Wish, and then everything's was darker, and then the weirder, and then I didn't think it was weird. I think it wasn't really actually quote unquote weird until the very earliest stuff. It was because it was so distant.
It doesn't sound anything.
It doesn't sound like exactly. It didn't sound like anything that I'd heard before.
And even by weird, we're on the same page with that for sure. Not weird as in like, this is too crazy, but because everything was fucking crazy. But more where it just sounds weird in the context of what you just, if you're listening to Wish for the first time, you don't really expect something like even 17 seconds, that sounds like cool.
And I didn't even hear
different.
that. The whole album, that and Faith, I didn't get until many years into I was here. I was in North Carolina. It was like, not like everybody knows my chronology, so it was like...
The fucking North Carolina years? Oh my God.
The famous massive North Carolina years. I'm sure you've read about them. But maybe, so probably in the past 10 years even, since I've been working at the bookstore, because I bought those albums at the bookstore, and I was like, I know I've heard this song, and this was on this, because the thing is with the Cure stuff, it was I would have a tape of a tape of a tape of a tape, and nobody knew what the fuck anything was called. I could hardly tell what was being said. My friend was like, I like the one that goes ding ding ding. I like the one about the cats or whatever. So nobody knew what anything was. And so for a really long time, I didn't, and I'm still confused about this, like standing on the beach is one thing, staring at the sea is another thing, but I had them both on the same tape, and then some things had the same songs, and I just don't even know.
They
all
changed
I know
it
is
up
I had
for
a gray
the
tape
CD
and it
versus
had both
the
things
the tape is standing on the beach that had all the singles and all the B-sides.
Okay.
And then the CD was Staring at the Sea. And then they also had the videos was called Staring at the Sea too.
Oh,
so it's all technically the same thing.
Okay.
They're just taking the lines from the first song, and so it's basically a single / greatest hits kind of deal. So.
Okay. Well, I was all kinds of confused, and then when I found the songs on other albums, I was like, "Is this the album I had?" And so I couldn't remember. But then when I finally started to accumulate them, I would get them 17 Seconds and Faith in particular. And then some of like these double CD ones or triple, some have like 4 CDs, all this stuff, crazy things and remixes and all this stuff. So I started to get those, and then I could sort of make my way through the time period and things like that.
Yeah.
But most of why I can't remember a lot of things about what the Cure, about like a place and time in the Cure, is that Wish I knew was an album, and Disintegration I knew was an album, and then the tape with the mix of all that stuff, I knew, like, I could tell you the order of all the songs, I knew all the lyrics, but I didn't know, exactly what albums they were, the timeline. And so, those albums are really significant to me, and it's not like everything else is peripheral, but I discovered all the other stuff at different points in time, so they feel different to me. And the stuff I discovered later, especially the remixes, because I didn't really listen to the remixes that much, and even Mixed Up, I didn't listen to that much until later, but there are a couple songs I like even better as remixes, which John's like, don't even
I don't like them.
I just say your list there. We'll do like a favorites list and a place. And that actually caught my eye. I was like, oh yeah. And it's funny because
Mixed Up is so good.
After seeing that, I threw that on today, and I was like, I never really thought of that. Like, there are a few on there that I like, but definitely don't tend to lean towards the remixes just because they're long. But I forgot that the Fascination Street one in particular is pretty awesome because it has that, and it's weird because it has that little keyboard part that goes. And that one doesn't really pop up a lot in the actual songs, but it's weird. Sometimes they work it in live and shit too. So there are it kind of reoccurs, and like I listen to somebody like Disintegration Deluxe, where it has like the fucking demos and shit. So it was always in there, but it was weird when you think about it, it's like how prominent it is in that Mixed Up one because they're killing 18 minutes worth of whatever the hell it is. but yeah, it is a good remix for sure.
Yeah, I like that, but I didn't listen to that till later too. But
I was just gonna say, while we're on the topic of early introductions, do you want to, John over here, the quiet man over here, you want to tell us the first time you heard them?
My first impression of the Cure would have been during the Wish album, and that would have been, I guess 92, 91.
Yeah, 92.
So a lot of what I was listening to was also a lot of gangster rap at the time. So I caught a ride with a friend of mine in a Subaru Impreza, red, and he was listening to Wish, and I can't remember exactly what song was going on, but it could have been Deep Green Sea, because that initially or eventually became my favorite song. But without a doubt, there's something about that song that just stuck. But Wish would have been the first album I bought after listening to that, and listened to that for a while before I went kind of retro.
Yeah.
At least
dabbled back into the old.
Yeah, I'd say reverse chronologically. So I went like 92 to Disintegration, and so their earliest of stuff I would be the most least
familiar with.
The most
least familiar.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I can't even imagine that. Like now, like if there's a band that I discover now that has like already 8 albums by that point, like what approach? I'd be probably just like a patient nerd at this point. Like, all right, let's start with day one. But I mean, I can't even remember. Even as a kid, I kind of.
on my notes.
Well, I guess at the time they would have had "Staring at the Sea" on CD as the greatest hits, but I didn't even think about doing that. Usually I mean, and even when you don't know the band, sometimes it's hard to tell what the hell the greatest hits were and stuff. I mean, and then it's just weird because you're just kind of under the mercy of whatever the hell they have at the record store and stuff too. I remember that being a factor because I got a lot of the tapes when I initially got into The Cure from a friend in a bulk kind of package, but they were even kind of scattered, and I knew there was like holes in the years because I'd look at the little copyright year and tell dark or whatever.
I did that too.
And
I did that too.
I was like, well, clearly there must be one in there because like you didn't have the internet to like look this shit up, you know. So it's like, but yeah, you would just kind of go, and I remember that was kind of the golden years of Cure hunting for me. Of like when there was a possibility of like whatever record shop you went into, there might just be an album you didn't know about, you know, like when you flip through. And just out of habit now, I always just go immediately to the Cure section in any record store. I'm like, well, maybe it'll be some dumbass bootleg or something, or something that I just don't even know about, some, you know, Latin tribute album or something, you know. But there's never any, you know, but it was great back in those old days when you get a word just like, wow, what the fuck is this one, you know, when you see that. And
I was actually going to ask you at dinner, like, if you think you had every Cure release.
Yeah, now.
At this point?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Not on vinyl, though. Like, which people should. But, and then, strangely enough, it's all the new shit that I... Like, not new, but even like Wish. It's like around the 90s when they didn't make as much vinyl. It's like, shit's like just so expensive. Like Wish and Blood Flowers, like, which, you know, only half, if that many Cure fans really passionately love. And it's like, it just goes for like hundreds of dollars and shit for a vinyl. Just like, oh, screw that. And even like mixed up or something's like really hard to get, you know. It's like, so I don't have a lot of them on vinyl. I got, you know, the core ones and stuff.
But you got every
in some form or another. But I mean, there's really not that many. There's only like 13 official albums, and there's a lot of like greatest hits, compilations, B-side things. But actual albums, there's only 13.
That's the thing that always confused me, is trying to figure out which one was an album and which one was a single. Because I never. Anyway, I just never figured that stuff out.
So you were there in the car, though.
Oh yeah,
in the car.
Tell me about the car.
Well, I don't know.
Was your initial reaction though? I mean, from the edge of the Deep Green Sea and blew you away right off the bat, or were you just like, what is this long ass song? This is like,
it blew me away. One, because I felt like, and then this is after listening to it multiple times. It's like, you know, it seems like they're only playing the same chords over and over again, but at the same time, this song seems like not exponentially, but increasing intention all the time, and it doesn't seem musically that anything is changing, but lyrical content on top of that, and then just I don't know, it was such a driving song that I immediately went out and bought Wish.
That's
and
awesome.
You know, and then a couple of the radio favorites, Friday, I gotta say.
Pulled a lot of people in. It's a catchy fucking song.
And oh jeez, it's Couple Leather. What's the one after Wendy?
The other one I don't like.
Yeah.
Doing the Unstuck.
Oh, Doing the Unstuck?
Is that the other happy song?
Let's Get Happy.
Let's Get Happy.
I don't like that song.
Get up and go. Come on. That's a good part.
That was the only thing that when I saw The Cure, and I wasn't even a teen. I was gonna say I was an angsty teen. I was like, shit, no, I was an adult when I did this. But anyway, my friend and I went to see them in Atlanta, and that was the only song that when they played. Oh, not that, but the Friday I'm in Love. That song.
Yeah.
You left on
like,
time to go get a beer and go to bed.
I was like, I'm sitting down too.
With your arms crossed.
It was funny because that concert, it was maybe the early 2000s or something like that, and it was an awesome concert. It was amazing, but the people that were there, it was like they came from two different places because all these goth kids, and it was like kids and like not kids but adults and like little sports outfits, little tucked in shirts or their shorts or whatever. I was like, how are these people get the same
Where
place?
was this at? In Alabama?
In Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay, cool.
In Atlanta, and but at the same time, I was thinking like, I'm glad we all have to look at each other.
Yeah,
we're in this place together. It's like we've got to deal with each other somehow. Yeah. But it was really good.
Yeah, that's a huge, weird, wonderfully weird element of The Cure now, in particular, like seeing these shows in this last tour we were talking about, just how like diverse the crowd is. I mean, they're just not even just in age, which is the given and to a certain degree, but you see that fucking show in Charlotte we went to, God, it was like, it's like, who are these people? It's like these fucking bankers, and then like some dude with like goth hair that's melting standing next to him, some blue collar comedy looking dude standing like, do they know what this is? You know? And it goes back to like that other idea we were talking about where it's like, this is my band, who are these people? How dare these horrible people? And like, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, you know, it kind of just shows how cool they are and they can reach that many different kinds of people. And, you know, there's definitely so many like funny ones of like looking over it. You'd see like this like, you know, mom that like was just happy to have her night out and see her old college band, and like her fucking husband was just like 20 Miller Lights deep, and he's like, fuck this, man, and like I was just laughing because he's only like 2 songs in. I'm like, this show's 3 hours long, motherfucker. You're gonna be dying by that 4th encore, man. But it's pretty amazing.
Especially when your wife's drunk and crying.
Yeah, she's all sobbing, like texting all her exes and shit. Like, this is our song. And it's like, is this shit over yet? They played your little fucking Friday song. Can't we go home?
They're really funny to go to a Cure show and go, this is my song. This is our song. Yeah. And then the next song's like, this is our song. Yeah. Just do it over and over.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny to see like the different, and that was like the thing to rehash a billion times in Charlotte. We saw them. I have a feeling it had to do with Charlotte where they played all singles. Is like a theme for 3 hours. Just the fact that they can play 3 hours worth of singles.
3 hours worth of singles is not easy.
I mean, there's still rare shit in it, you know. But it was like so many people just went ape shit and loved it. Though they're like, yeah, Friday I'm in love song, pictures of you, just like heaven. It was just like, Jesus Christ, man! I just want to hear one weird song.
I would have liked that.
Yeah, I mean, that's. We have friends that were complaining, but I was totally on board too. I was like, fuck it, they're great songs. I mean,
they are great songs. I was thinking, because I was looking up, well, after I did all of this, looked at the questions and then did all my notes, which I haven't used, but hardly I can't figure out what I don't even know where we are. I know, I'm throwing trash can. But when I did all that at the end of the night last night, I was like, I was looking up. I decided I want to look up like 10 best. I wanted to look up 10 best Cure or best Cure dance songs.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know, because I was like, I know there's songs that make me want to jump up and down, because I had a category specifically that says, I want to jump around to or move very fast and spin in circles. And then I have a list of songs that make me want to do that. Can you read
them off real quick?
Yeah. One is In Between Days. I should put in parentheses, also crying.
Crying.
And then the other one is A Man Inside My Mouth, which is an interesting title. But anyway, it's an awesome song.
B-side, too.
And it's so cool. And it's awesome. And then Edge of the Deep Green Sea. Also kind of makes me want to cry. Yeah. I just like, in a really weird, scary. If you ever see me jumping that song, there's probably something emotional that happened.
I might just turn and run away.
You probably should. And then Let's Go to Bed, which is awesome. And then The Walk, which I'd forever called Japanese baby song because it's like, you look like a Japanese baby. And so I was like, that's a Japanese baby song. But and they're back to back. And so how one goes into the next one, so cool. That's the best. I think that might be my favorite because in addition to liking songs, I like transitions between songs, and that's like an awesome transition. Might be my very favorite transition. You can put that on your list of what's your favorite transition between songs. I don't know if it was subconscious
from live albums or anything, but that's a very common thing at like live shows. Yeah, they actually kind of broke away from it on this tour more, but I believe it was always Let's Go to Bed, Walk, but it might mix and match different ways, but they always pair them up as like little buddy songs.
They're perfect with each other.
Not as like an absolute rule, but it's very common.
Yeah,
so, that's cool.
Good for you, Karen. I agree.
So, some logic.
Yeah.
What else you got on there?
Windy Time ? Which I think is one of the songs that I. It's a I love it. But, and I can't remember. And I remember how it goes, but I can't remember if it doesn't make me feel like this as fast paced as all the rest of them, but I definitely have that in it. Oh, and that had to do with something, and I can't remember because I'm drinking. But anyway,
that's some good unusual dances. You would think there would have been like the full on all remixes. I can't really say dancing to the edge of the deep green sea would be.
No,
I see it, but
it actually doesn't say none of these things. It says like want to jump around, to move very fast, spin in circles. Like none of those are really dancing.
That's all pure dancing.
This is my awkward body movement.
If you've seen Robert Smith dance, that's pretty much all he does.
It just makes my body feel a certain thing that I want to jump around.
Yeah, I never really think of that angle of like, because they are such a popular dance band.
I can read upside down.
Oh, okay.
I'm just such a non-dancer.
Right on, that's like, what I'm talking about.
Never even crosses my mind. But if I'm gonna dance to anything, it's always the wedding where I'm like really getting drunk and I'm like, oh fuck, they're playing The Cure. I gotta do something to this, and then I just imitate Robert Smith and just like having a video or I'm just swinging my arms around. And my in-laws think I'm having a seizure or something. Like, good God, no wonder he doesn't dance.
You feel like that. What makes you?
A lot of those, I'd say, like probably.
But other ones,
like kind of the big singles, like just like Having In Between Days.
Yeah.
Those ones that it's always just amazing hearing how these songs don't get old. You know, like the fact that like something like In Between Days can still give you chills and stuff when you hear it on the. Usually when it's weird, something like that, when it's like an environment you normally wouldn't hear The Cure, or I still think it's weird to hear The Cure, like if you hear like In Between Days at Ingles or something, the grocery store.
I might never hear it. I only like
Finding in Love is always coming on in the grocery store, but more like The River on the radio or something. They'll throw on like the occasional one where you're just like, oh wow.
I think they played a whole Tori Amos album, which is a whole other podcast also for me personally. She was like the thing that was my life for a long time. And she played Love Song.
Yeah.
When I was at a concert with a friend who introduced me to both The Cure and Tori Amos, and we were there together.
Full circle.
And then she said, this is my favorite song. And then it was and my friend grabbed my hand really hard and we both were like
oh shit,
the whole rest of the time, and it was this crazy weird moment of our past together and our love for her and our love for The Cure and all of these, and Tori Amos' love for The Cure and that song, and it was just really beautiful. And of course it's the most beautiful song. It's this beautiful song. It's oh my god, it's amazing. And the thing that
and I love that was such a huge hit because it is like people can't really attack it the way like Friday I'm in Love, because it is like Friday in Love's kind of obvious. All right, we're just going for the fun, single. But I mean, I love it too. I'm right there with you. I'm not bashing it, but I'm saying that like Love Song is even hard. No. I mean, I think technically Love Song was even a bigger hit. It was like the one that broke through.
I never thought of
so
Friday
weird,
Love as a hit. I did not like it because I thought it was a hit.
Okay, cool.
But I just didn't like it. But Love Song. I mean, the In Between Days has really simple lyrics, and Love Song has really simple lyrics, and there's something about simplicity that I really.
Yeah, it's kind of all their thing, for how elaborate like the mixes and how many little intricate things going on.
Yeah.
And it always blew my mind as like a young musician, is like, oh, I can never even touch the song. And then you finally grow up and you're like, the whole fucking thing's 4 chords, you know, but it just has like so many like layers where nobody's even hitting any of the chords, but it's just like these totally great layers of everything, and it just sounds like an orchestra is going on, but it's like, oh shit, it's just like 4 dudes and a synthesizer.
It sounds so big.
Like,
that's the thing that sounds so big, which is one of the other things, and this is really cool, and that has to do with you, that I made this list of songs to die to.
Nice.
And one of the ones on that is what is it? What is that song? The one that you covered?
Few Hours After This?
Yes, Few Hours After This. That I discovered later too. And that has really beautiful lyrics in it too. And it sounds so huge. It sounds so humongous. It sounds like this kind of explosion of feeling. And it's in a similar way, but in a different path than The Edge of the Deep Green Sea. Because they both sound really, really big, but in different directions. And one is like...
One's more guitar-y, one's synth strings. And
it is. I don't even know if I'm thinking about the instruments as much as just the feeling of it. I just feel like one is big and bright, and one is big and like maybe on the way to hell or something like that. That's why I feel like The Edge of the Deep Green Sea. But I'm ready. I'm just ready. I don't know. It's just this like... so
it's a positive deathbed
they
song?
both
like
are.
Yeah,
but that
like,
one,
all right,
that one's
good.
Edge of the Deep Green Sea is not so much. But the other one is. That's on. It's the only. I think that's the only Cure song on the.
Shit, I like that idea.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I know. I did. I asked multiple people to make this for me.
You didn't ask me.
Mine would be.
I told you I don't want to know what songs that you would die to because I want to think about you dying. That makes me feel bad. Not that I want to think about you dying.
You're gonna fucking die.
That's unfair.
Fair enough.
But it's just so you can make it for yourself if you want to. But my mom was
share
already
with
like,
anybody.
you can share with other people.
I'll make a CD, so when I die, it's like just press play is what I'll write on it.
Yeah. Everyone's like,
play.
oh, that's a weird show. Find him in love, really?
Oh, that'll be your curse to everyone.
No, it'd be doing the Unstuck just because I know someone would really be upset about
it. But I just don't like my mom because I used to really love Imagine, and it's a beautiful song. Mom's like, when I die, I want you to play this song. I was like, I can never listen to this song again. Thanks, Mom. Because I think my mom done that in Bridge Over Troubled Water, which I could do without Bridge Over Troubled Water. It's good. The Aretha version is really beautiful. I'm glad that I'm not cursed.
Nice and long. You want to pick the long songs to die to, you know? Like my mix is going to be like 14 years long.
Oh, I should say, that's right. Well, that...
Good point.
That's right.
Like 7-10-minute songs. That'd be good.
Well, and they're also different kinds of deaths. You're like, if I die a violent death, this is what I want to go to. If I want to die when I'm dancing, this is it. If I want to die during sex, this is it. If I want to die when I'm crying, this is it. Or whatever, but like certain types of things. Which is the whole Cure thing. I was like, there are all these songs I love.
Nothing.
No, what?
It's like multifaceted death playlist.
Check it out on Spotify.
I think it's a good idea.
Because if you're going to be dying by like violently, you probably only have time for one song.
Maybe.
Well, unless you plan to fight back.
Well, I actually, when I think about dying violence, I always think about the one inflicting violence, and I probably just would get violence back and then I'd die to that.
Oh.
It's mostly, I should say, dying by inflicting violence and then getting killed. I should call it that. But I don't have a specific list for that, but they're like, violent songs that I wouldn't mind dying to somehow. I just don't want to know exactly when in the song because it'll ruin it. But anyway, I like that.
What, ruin the song or ruin your death?
Oh. Ruin the song.
Okay.
That got way more complicated than I thought it would. I don't know about that.
When I hear something, I ask questions.
That's all right. Well, anyway, so that song is a song I would die to, and you covered it. It was really cool because I hadn't really shared that particular song with other people. I was like, whoa, this is that song I died to, and Gavin sang it acoustically. It was really cool.
Yeah,
and it's really. Why did you like that one? Like, what are the reasons you like that one?
Yeah, it's just like, it's a B-side. It was on the B-side of In Between Days way back, but I just knew it initially from the cassette of Standing on the Beach.
Cool.
And it was right after Exploding Boy, which is the other one.
That song
those
too.
three go together.
Yeah, I like that song.
And that one just was like
that makes me want to jump up and down.
Yeah, that one's just like so fun, and then like to go into this epic song, and I just love the mood and the lyrics, and then and it was one of those ones that's so overly elaborate. Like it's hard to do Cure songs as covers because you're just kind of just playing it and it doesn't sound as good as them, and you're just doing it. You're like a lot of covers, but that one's like one where you can kind of work in the little notes into the guitar, and you can kind of just sing it a little different, but at the same time,
that makes sense.
It's
and I
not
got
like
that when I listened to
cool.
it too.
Yeah, it's just funner to do as opposed to like. If you cover like in between days, it's like, what the fuck are you gonna add to this song? Yeah, I mean, it's like, even if you hear people try to do it or whatever, it's always nice because it's such a good song, you can't fuck it up. But at the same time, it's like, whatever. So it's fun to pick one obscure one too.
Playing something. What were you playing? You played some version of some song today before you came. I was like, hey, this whiny shit.
A Letter to Elise. It was a cover by Sensfield, and I think she only disliked it. Just because the lyricist and singer seems to be a little bit on the emo whiny.
Shit, give it a chance.
Time a chance at all. It immediately came to the lyrics and the lyricist, and she was like, "Done. No."
It's tough, man. You don't want to. Covers always.
I just don't. There's a certain way that the guys can be real whiny, and I was told John, I was like, "There's good whiny and there's bad whiny." Like I can
and then there's Robert Smith whiny, which is the whole fucking thing. It's like you can't even.
It's not like a departure of what the song actually was. It seems to be more an homage.
Yeah.
But they sound like whoever it was sounded like any other person. Like there could be like 100 guys that sounded exactly the same, playing it the same way and singing it the same way. Like that's the thing that makes me the most irritated. Is not when someone covers it and they like kind of sound weird or doesn't sound quite like the thing. It's like if it sounds like indistinguishable from anybody else, that makes me mad.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that made me mad about like the what. Sorry, I did not talk about Carrie but like the women that I love, like these, like Tori Amos and Liz Phair and PJ Harvey. Actually, PJ Harvey's not really disappointed me that much, but Tori Amos and Liz Phair, and then maybe some other women that I really liked a lot, were really important to me when I was younger. And when they, like when you asked the question about the Cure, like when did it go bad for you or something like that? Because there's inevitably a point for most people that they're like, that was like, and my response to that was like, I don't know, like anything after Wish I don't like, but it's not. It's nothing personal. They all turned, and the others, especially the women, the 90s women, hurt way more when I knew it was over. Which means like when I remember the moments that I heard them, and I'm like, oh, that's her. That's her. She sounds like anybody else. That's the thing that breaks my heart is when they start to sound like anybody else. That's really disappointing to me.
You see that a lot, and then just kind of flattens out. And
I hate that. But anyway, and that's related to something about the whiny guys.
Where they just became everybody else. I'd say that. But
didn't even listen to the whole song. That's all I'll say.
No, I got other things to do.
It happens.
I'm only disappointed because I just started re-listening to them a lot.
Was it a band that you knew?
Yeah, I saw them in concert.
I'm so sorry. I thought it was just some random guys.
No, I have
like, hey, these guys covered the song.
3 of their 5 albums, probably.
Sorry.
It's like one that's like I was looking over the playlist. It's like A Letter to Elise. I know that's a Cure song, and I was like, I didn't even think about it until I played it today. It's like, oh, that is the cover.
Cool. We'll track it
Guess
down.
not.
We'll put we'll put a link to it in let the listeners decide.
No, put a link to it because I feel bad.
The dude's falsetto, without a doubt. But he's tall and he kind of looks like Norm Macdonald.
I might like
it. If you saw him, you might have a different story. But he's a little whiny. I'll give him that. He's whiny.
Well, it was interesting hearing the songs that you latched onto, and Wish being both you guys' first introduction. like I always thought the cool thing about Wish was that it was one of the albums that I like that's like kind of diverse in itself. But there's like the super gloomy ones, and then there's like Friday Night Love, and there's like stuff in between. So it's a little everything. Kiss Me, I feel like is like that. And there's a lot of
Catch. I was always
like some of them are really really downer ones, and then some just weird ass shit and some funky stuff, you know. But so I was wondering if you guys both had like any strong lean towards, because a lot of people I've noticed with the show is that like they either lean towards the gloomy side or lean towards the poppier side more. Do you have, or is it the fact that there's a good mix? Because I always fall right in the middle where I love it all, and I like a good mix of it. You know,
I kind of like the ones that are both extremes, and the stuff that's in the middle I don't like quite as much. So it has to be really depressing or really like crazy. Makes me really
I guess I'm kind of the same way.
I'll put my meter to the gloomy side.
Of course, your meter's always on the gloomy side.
Well, that's
you're not alone, man.
I'm answering the question.
That's awesome.
They don't know me. I don't know. Maybe not necessarily all gloomy, because I like a forest. And Kyoto song.
Which one is that? Tom, can you sing that to me? Is that... Okay,
Head on
that's
the door.
right. Okay.
Lyrics are pretty dark.
Close to me. Close to me.
Hey, it's all sad.
And then out there is Wrong Number, which is one time I listened to.
Is that the one you played that to? Did you play that for me today?
I don't think I played that to you today, but that one's out there. I remember listening to headphones. I was skating around, shooting a hockey puck one time down at the Carrier Park, and that one just came up on random, and I was like, Tangerine. I just remembered that. That lyric coming up.
It's one that hits or misses with people.
Something like that. Wrong number. I'm sorry, wrong number. It's the first time I've probably ever heard his actual voice. It's like, sorry, wrong number. But otherwise he is singing the songs. But Wrong Number was one that at least stuck in my craw just because I heard it in such a weird setting, and it was a Cure song that was just popped up in my head.
I was always surprised people are a little harder on that one than I always thought. I thought it was cool. But I was like, I mean, it's definitely, I guess, considered a later one now, but I think it came out like late 90s even.
It would have been late 90s, I would imagine.
It was like one of the ones they put on, it was a new song on Galore, which was like the part 2 to Standing on the Beach, so like the singles, but then they put like one new song on the end, and that was the new one. So, but yeah, it was cool, and it had like Reeves, the guitarist, was David Bowie's guitarist, and Tin Machine, and that was the first time he played with them, and he's like actually pretty much in the band now. He's tours around with them on this tour and past couple ones, and really cool because he just nails that crazy guitar part. It's like, it's just like in the video is like so fucking 90s, or it's all just like these.
They made a video for it.
Yeah, it's all like fluorescent colors and shit.
Sure.
I can imagine
Totally
that.
looks like Blur could be like jumping around in the background and shit. It's like so like there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess lyrically, it's not like the most poignant of songs that I would attach myself to the Cure, but there's something about the beginning at I'm green, tangerines. So,
when I was thinking about lyrics that I really like, I just listened to it the other day, and I remember, because I wrote like, awesome lyrics, which is a really stupid thing to write, but I did. But I just wanted to remember, it's I know, it's The Walk. Oh, the lyrics to that are so good. And I forgot because they're almost kind of, I think that's one of the ones that are sort of nonsense lyrics. Well, to me, because I don't know what that means. I don't understand it, therefore it's nonsense. But I really, really like it.
But I was going to ask you, while you're looking there, though, like the lyric idea, a lot of people do tend to lean towards music Cure or versus lyric, and
it's music for me.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of things that I care about a lot are usually lyrics, but not really for the Cure. There's just this kind of feeling that I need to have. Another thing in my 6 pages of notes.
We'll publish all this on the website.
Because you were like, what songs do you like? And I have four different. It's in 4 different parts depending on the thing. Like, one is these are songs. These are things that I need to say to people, or these are songs that I love because I need to say what's in them to people, like just like Heaven and Love Song is what I think about my girlfriends, and I feel and I've shared those with them and like given them. I think there was a friend of mine who introduced me to The Cure. Her father died. We went to her father's funeral, and at her father's funeral, some of us were kind of coming back together after being apart for a while, and then I had a blank tape for all of them except for I only put one song on. It was just Love Song. It's the only thing I put on that tape. And I was like, you do what you want with the rest of this, but I wanted to like give that to them, and so that's significant to me. And then there's a whole other set of songs. It's like these are sounds I need to hear, which is a weird category, but I mean for The Cure, they're like certain feelings, like I was like things that come to my mind. And then there's certain
I feel the same way where like so many of their songs are like he's probably responsible for the lyrics that hit like most directly to my heart, but then there's some songs that like I just worship the mood and feel like, but then if somebody asked me like, well, what's that song about, what is it? I'm like, I don't know, I never really thought about it. It's just like, it's like, oh, what the fuck he's talking about when I really start digging in, but it's like, it doesn't
and
matter.
I like that it doesn't matter. And but yeah, so let me tell. So sounds I need to hear in a particular song. You tell me if these are. So Play for Today. Yeah. That's when it goes.
That keyboard
like
riff
that
is,
part. I love that part. And then Letter to Elise, the climax of that song, SD Green Sea. We probably talked about that like 5 times. All about that. And I said, all of it. Love it. A Strange Day. That's really beautiful. The climax in that song's really pretty. I love the bridge. The bridge. Yeah, I keep calling it because I'm not talking about music. I don't know anything. It's like the part where it's
might not even be the same part that you're talking about. I'm still kind of curious. Even the climax of Letter to Elise, you're saying. I'm wondering if it's the same part.
The instrumental part. The sad instrumental. I get it.
I think
that part. The sad instrumental part.
Brings it back up into the last.
Oh my God. So amazing.
Awesome.
So that, and then Fascination Street, especially version on Mixed Up. And then I just had, because I can't remember what they're called, a lot of songs on Disintegration in 17 Seconds have that sound, whatever I was talking about, I don't remember. But more than any other albums, I forget song names. Oh, I know what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant. Basically, so I like those albums because of the mood and the feeling that they have, but I can't remember the songs. Are all mixed up together in my mind. But they just sort of feel the same, and then sometimes I just have to have that feeling, and then that's why I go to them.
Do you think it's just particular chords in a particular order? Like if you heard those chords in the same order but from a different artist, that it might give you the same kind of feel?
I guess I wouldn't know, because I'm almost preset when I listen to The Cure to hear it in a certain way, to feel like it's kind of plugging into something in me that I didn't know was there. Like I feel like I'm on drugs. A lot of times when I listen to
trance
The Cure,
or something. Where it's
I guess I wouldn't have asked that question if it weren't for the fact that you had like a particular album, 2 albums that have a particular feel. So I'm just imagining if it's just like maybe a chord progression on how things hit. Like there's certain chords that if they're played in a particular order for some reason, I just get like a little teary-eyed, and I don't exactly know why, but I just think about like, well, it's this notes played in this particular order.
Because I talked about, because I know Sigaros does that to you, and I talked about this Weezer song that does that to me, the way that
there's a lot of classical composers that do it to me too. That's the thing. It's just
think it's that same kind of feeling, and there might, and there probably is some kind of science with if I understood anything about chords or chord progression, maybe I would know. It might be something that's chemical or biological or something that I don't understand
like
at all.
Someone wants to make me cry, they just play these.
Yes.
And it's like, oh shit.
It's definitely like the minor, like the whole Spinal Tap, D minor, the saddest of all keys.
The saddest of all keys, right? You instantly I did.
But there's some truth to it. But I think the part where you can credit the bands is like how hard it is to even deliberately rip off these bands. Lord knows I've even tried, But,
nobody can do it.
Yeah, nobody sounds exactly like it. Because I feel like a lot of it is the arrangements and stuff. So you have like these cool chords, and it's not so much even like the chord progressions and stuff, but it's just like then you put the strings over it and how you do it and whatever the tones are and and how you bring it in and it is weird. And I feel like a lot of like those early New Order songs are probably the closest to like Cure-ish stuff and like where it has that same feel with like the toms and stuff of like early Cure stuff. But I mean, it's still like completely different, and it's weird. Sorry. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I'm just saying it's hard to harness that and whatever the hell they do, and I think that's what makes a band unique, and the reason why those kind of bands are so unique, and so many bands even are influenced by them now, but can't quite do it even if they want to.
Yeah. Well, there's this thing that sounds weird. This particular type of disorientation that they do. And we were talking about The Forest because it's such a good song, and John really likes it, and I was listening to it again too. And I feel like I could, and I think I wrote this down, like I could be, when I listen to a forest, I could be in a forest, or I could be in outer space.
Yeah.
Or I could be on drugs.
Right.
And there might be some other place I wrote down that I thought I could be. I can't remember what. Anyway, but it's this really strange, like I can't figure out where my brain is or how my body's feeling.
Yeah.
This confusion in my, like this physical confusion that the music makes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, and that's something we've tapped into the other episodes of just like, and like what we said earlier with the simplicity of it, where there are the spaces in between that lead to interpretation, and it is pretty simple when you really strip it down, but for the most part it's it leads you to your own story by the lyrics not being super clear. You don't really know what the fuck he's talking about. Is he just wandering around in a forest or what is he getting on about?
And I started like, and then Tori Amos was the first person that I was like, this means so much to me, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I feel like I could,
you can make it
I could live or die by this line on what it means.
It's cool.
Wow. John has pointed to something
the very bottom.
Drugs. Oh yeah, that's what I said. The forest is a good example. That's what I said. Oh, or if I'm a passenger in a car, that's how that song makes me feel too.
So we said favorite songs. Do you have like a particular, I guess, wish then? Do you still hold on to that being your favorite Cure albums? Or an era even of the Cure that you like better? So many people like to break them up into different...
I don't believe in that.
No? It's all the whole deal or nothing?
For me, I'm pretty loyal to a band. Like, I've had to defend plenty of bands that have gone by the wayside, even after the fact. So for me, time periods, not so much. I would say Disintegration or Wish.
Wish is pretty significant to me in terms of my life, but most of the stuff that I like by The Cure is from... probably the thing that I think of as one thing that's not the one thing. Standing on the beach and staring at the sea, all that mushed together on my gray tape, all the stuff on that tape is my favorite stuff, I would say. But without some of the stuff on Wish, I couldn't. I mean, it's some of the best stuff, but
needs to be in there. Cool.
Charlotte Sometimes is beautiful.
So these songs that will be on your mix?
Yeah, I would put Charlotte Sometimes on
mix
there
to
for
live
sure.
by.
Just straight up Cure. No one's dying or dancing. They're just listening to... Cool. Yeah, and we'll attach this new thing. We'll be putting Spotify playlist on the website. So
Spotify, because you said, does it still hold up? I said forever. And he said, how much does sentimental value weigh? And I said, everything. And you said, Cure list for Spotify. I said, what's that?
I barely know either. I think I can make a
I don't think I really I've heard. I shouldn't say what's that because I should say I've heard of that instead of what's that. But I
investigated. I was all good to go with Spotify, but then it did some shit where it wanted me to pay them. And I was like, all right, I don't care. But I think you can make like a free playlist.
I can make a mix CD.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Can I just do it? I can fit like 21. Well,
that's cool.
Well,
it's just for
it's
for the listening world to hear.
Oh,
so, I was figuring last year suggested. Just sit around and listen.
Okay, well I guess I can't
if you
send a CD
if you tell me the songs,
everybody.
I'll arrange them for you.
That would be cool. I would love to do that. I think that the thing I want to end it with is actually a remix. And it's the In Between Days, the one on some sort of double, triple, quadruple album. And it's this really short, small remix with a little bit of the... I don't know what it is, but it's called In Between Days.
Connect the Dots?
And it might be baby version or something. Or maybe I just think of baby version because it sounds like there's a little baby
It's a real fast
but it's very it's just like it doesn't have the lyrics. It's only the music. And it's very sad and sweet and short. It's very short, and it has
like it might have been the demo that's on the reissue.
It's a demo. Might be that.
Does it sound like very like track recorder, kind of like a little drum machine?
Because you got a couple of those double disc reissues that had like a lot of B-sides.
Yeah, it's in my car. I brought. I was like, we're gonna bring all the Karen thing. And I just brought all this
stuff. I'm a little not sure. I'd freak out. Maybe I don't have it.
I'm sure you have.
My guess would be the demo that is recorded. Like almost has like maybe his wife opening the door and begins, "Are you recording?" And then he's like,
maybe does he have a baby that would have gone?
Maybe that was probably him. She's like, oh, I guess that's a yes. Never mind.
She puts it back in his little
genius.
But that's what I want to be the last song because it's really sweet. And I had the idea like starting with In Between Days and then ending with that In Between Days.
Yeah,
like a reprise.
So I gave away the secret.
All right. Stuff in the middle. Check it out on Spotify.
You can make a playlist on Spotify?
Yeah, I think you can put it in there, and I'll put the link on the Facebook page. Yeah, I'll give it a shot anyway. Then I'll cut all this out. Like, fuck it, idiots, it doesn't even work. Well, that's cool. And so you said everything holds up sentimental-wise, though.
And I mean, if I didn't have the girls that I grew up with, I would not have the care in my life in the way that it
that's
is,
cool that
really
it was a social angle that brought you in and
Emily and Kara, if you ever get to listen to this.
Are you still in touch with all them?
Mm-hmm, they live here. And I actually talked to them about this podcast however long ago it was. Yeah. And I was like, God, it would be cool if we were all here and did the podcast. It would be insane.
Well, we could do it again. That would be great. Yeah,
it'd be great. You're going to need to bring some alcohol if we have to listen to all of us talking at the same time about the
kids. And it'll take for about 2.5 hours.
I'll bring the big setup for that. No, that's great. I'll be able to. What were their names again? Give them a shout out.
Emily and Kara.
Emily and Kara.
They both live here. Yes. And
all right. Open internet invitation to Emily and Kara. Let's hear your
I think they would be more than willing to.
I think they would. I mean, they're both super busy, but they can find night to have a beer sometime. Or I might just have to go home and babysit for one of them. But that'd
put them all together. My kid.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Just let them.
Kara has awesome daughters. They're amazing. So
if all falls apart, we'll interview them.
That actually would be fun.
That's cool. So what do you feel like the Cure's legacy then? Where do you think where it goes? We talked about that earlier as far as...
why don't you answer that? Because this was at the end of my notes last night after a few beers and like 12 o'clock. So I have to figure out what I wrote.
Yeah, no problem.
I have an idea of what I mean. But
the Cure legacy?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think they'll be remembered for in like 10 years as artists even?
10 years from now.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess doesn't really matter because they've been going for... ever. They'll probably be the exact same as they are now, but
no, that's tough to say. I mean, they're gonna have one with the visuals of Robert Smith, the way he dressed and the way he put his face together and hair. But
that whole
I don't know. I think for me that's important in terms of like bands of the 80s and 90s because that seemed to be one with the lack of, I guess, TV coverage, which now it's almost the same now. I mean, you look at an artist who knows what they look like anymore, and maybe that's even more so than what it was because of with MTV and all that stuff, videos. It seems like maybe image was even more important. But I would say image-wise, that's certainly something that sticks in my craw. Legacy-wise, in terms of song, I don't know. They could be precursors to any kind of goth emo scene, really. So I mean,
and I guess that's kind of the bottom was like, what do you think will win out in the long term? The heavy gloomy shit or the pop hits that broke through to the mainstream, or maybe neither. You know, I mean, maybe it is.
I don't know. For me, I if you wanted my opinion on what's gonna be more lasting, it's gonna be the pop because I think gloomy is not what people want to dwell on these days.
I think that gloom has such a determination.
I don't know. I think, like, in terms of mainstream artists, I couldn't even tell you a mainstream artist currently now, but if there is one, I'm sure they're not gloomy and, you know, we need to take their shoestrings away from them if they're ever arrested. So in terms of that, I think like more people want to be happy than sad.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
And the fact that we talked about earlier, where they do cut the difference so much, where it's like you can still have a sad, happy song, and you can still, so maybe that'll be their legacy, or is that they're able to have the pop hit that breaks out to a wider audience, but can still lead you down those dark roads if you want to.
Certainly influential. Like, without a doubt, there couldn't be artists today without the Cure of yesterday. I mean, anybody who's going to do a cover for them is definitely a nod to what they were to them. So if you got Blink 182 doing a cover, I don't even know.
It's a great Blink 182.
And that's about what? 20 years ago?
Yeah, even
so
those
who
are
even knows
now.
who's doing something now?
Who knows?
But anybody who has staying power, if you can go on tour at 65 or whatever, and people are still selling out to see your shows, you got to
playing longer shows now than they did when they were 20.
Really?
I mean they started doing like the 2-hour shows around 96 maybe, but now it's like stretched into these 3-hour long shows. That's and they're
so
super tight and like voice is better than ever, really. I mean, there's no songs that I believe he's taking it down a key or anything. I mean, it's not the easiest shit to sing either. His voice is like way up there, and it's crazy. I mean, and maybe that's their thing, and I kind of hope that they kind of get more credit as just being known as a great live band too, because I feel like that's something with all the singles and the recordings, which are amazing, but like just what the hell? There's like so many 20-year-old people that like play shows like, here's your 50 minutes, man. It's like dude's 57 and he's like playing these hard ass songs. It's like sweating up there. He's not the most physical dude.
When I saw him, when I saw him in the show in Atlanta, he was wearing big like basketball jerseys. I was like,
you gotta have comfortable shoes if you're out there.
I was like, all right, whatever. But I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's funny too. You talking about like gangster rap because he wore. I was
where
like,
he was wearing the jerseys. You mean? Yeah, he had that weird phase. He was wearing hockey jerseys and stuff.
9 Deuce. I know what I was listening to at 92. There's no mistaking. That was Chronic and Snoop Dogg, without a doubt. And then Wish was out at the same time, which is why it flew totally under my radar. And if it weren't for someone else playing that song, I probably would not have gotten into The Cure.
Cure kept him on the streets.
Yeah.
Well, it kept me live.
Word.
Otherwise, I'd be a statistic.
Well, I guess on that note, man, go out blazing. So, thanks so much, guys. Any final thoughts or anything?
I think that was pretty appropriate.
Cool. Feel free to swing by Mr. K's in Asheville if you made it this far and see these two lovely people. Check out their Cure section. What is the most widely brought in Cure album?
I would say either Disintegration or self-titled sometimes.
Wow.
04. But I've also seen Wish flowing a couple times.
So there you go. One of the best, one of the most mixed ones. So we'll see. Little everything. That's how Mr. K's rolls, I guess.
There is a divider for the Cure, I will say.
There you go.
So, simple browsing.
So thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Come back, do this again. We'll do round 2.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.
Talk hard. That's how we sign off. Pump up the volume, Talk hard. It has nothing to do with the Cure.
I can't remember that. I don't remember that.
I won't put you through it. All right, till next time. Again, a very special thank you to Rebecca and John. Always a pleasure talking with those two. And thank you so much for listening. As we mentioned in the recording of this episode, head on over to the Facebook Holy Hour page where you can find a link. We'll have Rebecca's Ultimate Cure playlist via Spotify and a link for that. And you can check out her favorite Cure songs as mentioned in this episode. And we're also backtracking through past guests and contributors of the show, where we're letting everybody pick their favorite Cure songs to put in a short little playlist. It's kind of a daunting task, we know, and changes by the hour for any true Cure fan. But I thought it'd be fun to just have a short little playlist there from the people that have contributed to this show. And even if you haven't and would like to email me your Ultimate Cure playlist, we'll include that. And so just send an email with the list of the songs to gavinconner@gmail.com. While you're doing all the technical stuff, go on over to Instagram and find the Holy Hour Podcast on Instagram, as well as subscribing on iTunes. And leave a comment on iTunes. Don't be shy. Tell us what you think, good or bad. We'd love to hear from you. But be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We got much more on the horizon. And thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Holy Hour Podcast.